Welcome, everybody, to Blue Collar Startup. I am your co-host, Derek Foster, minus one today. Mike had a couple things come up on the farm today, so you're stuck with me and Terry Hubbard from Peak Environmental. Welcome, Terry.
Thanks, Derek. Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. You have an amazing story, and we were just talking. You sent me a great response to our prep sheet that we give everybody coming in. And, you know, it's really fascinating. So start from the beginning. And how did you've had your own business now since you were, what, 16?
21 officially. Yeah.
21?
Yeah, but I was in the landscape business by probably 15. I was working on landscape projects and working for a local contractor. So, yeah. It was something inherent to me. I grew up, in the country. I was surrounded by gravel pits and heavy construction, and I guess I kind of grew up in the dirt. And as I got older, I realized that and I started getting into landscaping. I realized that I was artistic, and so I kind of did gravitate to landscape. My dad was a site contractor, so I had heavy equipment around the house, and I guess it really spoke to me. So once I started in it, I really enjoyed it. There was no looking back. I never thought about doing anything else.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what was it like being a young kid, working around? I'm assuming, a lot of older people that were older than you and have already had a lot of experience. What was that like?
Yeah, I had a lot of mentors early on, I think. Guys that were in their 20s that had been doing landscape for a lot of years. That I really looked up to and admired. So as a 16-year-old kid, working on sites with guys that are in college, out of college, they were really cool dudes to me, and they taught me a lot. And I also had a boss at the time that was a bit of a tyrant, but brilliant at landscape. His name was Stu Knapp. So Stu, if you're listening, sorry I called you a tyrant. But he was hard on us. It was very strict. He'd yell a lot, and he'd get a lot out of you though. And we would triple check everything. Everything had to be perfect. So it instilled really in me a real keen attention to detail and to workmanship. And I think that was really important in the formative years because you ended up being really proud of the work you were doing because it was really top level. And that was awesome to be part of it at such a young age, So,
and you did that for a while, and, you're going to school, landscaping. What was the thought process like when you were in high school and what the next step was and how you navigated that?
I remember telling people that I was going to go to college and then join try to get into the Army Corps of Engineers. I saw myself doing dirt work of some kind. And I did okay in college. I was a good test taker, not much of a studier. And I had fun in college. Let's put it that way.
I read that in your prep sheet.
So I had a lot of fun, but as I was getting ready to get out of school, I had to make a decision of what I was going to do. And I had a twin brother, and he had always had plans to move out west and be a ski bum for a while. And I loved those plans, but I didn't want to move away. And I did like the landscape business, so we decided to become subcontractors for Stu Knapp, for this summer. And I ended up, basically in 4 hours, we went down to downtown Albany. We got the paperwork at a stationery store. There was no internet back then. This is like 1997. And we filled out the paperwork, went to the county clerk's office and filed, had it notarized, and then stopped at the insurance company on the way home and got a policy. And after lunch, we were back at work and we were in business. And I mean, it happened that quickly, which is pretty amazing.
So it takes a lot of guts, obviously, to be able to do that, especially at such a young age. When did that make sense for you to do that? And what made it make sense to you?
We saw the opportunity financially, and we weren't making much money at the time. I mean,
yeah. What was the rate you?
This guy, Stu, was paying us about $12.50 an hour, I think, and there was a promise of $13.50, and we were at like 11 before we started, but I think we ended up at $12.50 for the first year. I mean, I did much better in years to come because I stayed with him for a few years, building all this stuff, and to the guys out there thinking about this and thinking that they want to start a business, it's a really great way to get started with really low risk. There's a lot of contractors out there that'd be happy to pay you a decent rate. As long as you have insurance, they'll have to pay your comp, of course. But you can get started working for somebody as a sub and start telling everybody you're in business. And in a few years, word's going to get around, and all of a sudden you just have to start managing the schedule and grow as you see fit. But for me, initially, it was a fantastic lifestyle. Right. So I got out of college and I'm starting this business, quote unquote. I had a red beat up pickup truck that said Wayne on the side and a couple shovels.
Who was Wayne?
He was this dude that I bought the truck from, and he was a big deer hunter, and it had the cop side light on the side you can spotlight deer with. And I bought the truck for $2,700. It got hit probably 3 times, and I collected probably about $6,000 or $7,000 in insurance money for the truck itself. So it didn't owe me anything, but that's how I started, man. It's I think a typical story for a lot of people in my position, where you start young and you just go for it, man. But I got to the winter, and it was the first winter. I'm like 23, and I'm like, well, I could plow snow, or hey, my buddies are ski patrollers over in the Catskills in Hunter Mountain, and it was a no-brainer. I could get the ski bum lifestyle and then work in the summertime, kind of building a business. And in my 20s, that's what I did. I ended up moving out west during the winter with my brother, and I was ski patrolling in the Rockies, and I was working on avalanche teams and throwing explosives. And then I'd drive 2,000 miles home, and I'd run a landscape business. And no kids, no house, just a nice apartment, and not a care in the world. And I was living the dream, I think, in my 20s there. And I got to say, I think at a certain point, I had to settle down. You start buying equipment, you start buying the second truck, the third truck. And all of a sudden, ski patrol was paying about $11 or $12 an hour as well. And you got the $600 and $700 truck and skid steer payments. The math doesn't add up anymore. But during the 20s, I mean, I think it was the lifestyle that I think a lot of 20-year-olds would want. People in their 20s. Sure. Before you get going in life, be able to kind of have a flexible schedule and do cool stuff. And I was able to do it, and I feel like I've been trying to get back there ever since. not necessarily living across the country, but but being able to take the time off and do things. And I think that's what a lot of entrepreneurs are inevitably looking for, is the lifestyle,
Yeah, and your brother never came back, right?
That's right.
He's still out there?
He's still there, yeah. He owns 5 restaurants at this point, so he's been very successful in his own right.
I was going to say, so he's a bit of an underachiever. Good for him.
Yeah.
That's great. I know there's a lot of opportunity out west, so that's awesome. So, you, like a few of our other guests, a couple that come to mind, Devin Kamengay, same thing. He was in education and, started essentially a side hustle and eventually grew it to a business. We've seen several other people do the same thing, become a subcontractor and then eventually, own their own business. So how long in total before you were in solid footing on your own with your own client list? How long did that take from idea of, hey, I can do this, to actually having that established client list in business?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was a construction guy, always had been. At this point, admittedly, I don't even know how to run a 0-turn mower. I don't take care of my own lawn. I'm not very strong. We have great folks on our staff that are really good at grounds maintenance, and that's awesome. But I was a construction guy in the beginning, and I think if I had done grounds maintenance and more of the service work, I probably could have grown a little faster. But it probably took me 6 years before I had 2 trucks and a skid steer, and was probably working full-time without having to sub-work with other landscape contractors. So probably somewhere around there. Probably by the time I was 28, I was full-on selling all our jobs and, pretty consistent staff. We were probably running, 4 or 5 guys at that time. It wasn't a tremendous amount, but it was good then, and it was good money then.
Sure. I think it takes a lot of patience. Everybody has a dream of something that they want to achieve, and it doesn't happen overnight. And, I think, in reading your prep, you faced a lot of challenges throughout that time period. Reflecting back, what are some of the challenges that really stand out, and what did you do to overcome them, and what kept you going?
Yeah, I think, there's a transition point, and the big one probably for a lot of people was the Great Recession in 2008. We were doing well, and same thing. I was running probably 6 guys. We'd be on 1 or 2 jobs a day, maybe a third one, something like that. We'd split up a little, but we were making good money, low overhead. I was working out of my dad's shop. And the housing market was booming, and I'm in my 30s. I had just married my wife in 2006. I'm like 31. We started having kids, and we were working on $1 million homes with this builder. His name was Drew Cathell. Drew's retired now, but great dude. Very mentored me a lot in sales. He was a great salesman, no doubt, and an all around great dude. But we weren't diversified. We were strictly working in $1 million home market in 2007 and 2008. And, as we know what happened, the housing market crashed, and I had no maintenance business, no service business for backup. We weren't even doing small projects at that time. We were just building really high-end 6-figure landscapes. And so 2009 came around. I was flush with cash. We had a bunch of money in the bank. I had built a new office in my basement. I was all excited, and I'm down at my desk, and I'm going through April, and the phone's not ringing. And then I start reaching out and calling folks, and they're like, "Yeah, we're doing the landscape ourselves now because we have no work either." And so all of a sudden your projects are gone, and nobody's spending money. And I tell people I think I aged about 5 years that year, because the payments are still due, sure, and the insurance payments are due, and that was a rough one. So that was the wake up call, I think, initially, that hey, you do stick your neck out a little bit if you're just in one area, when you're in a niche, if you will. And I realized that I had to add a service component, and then I had to be able to diversify and add different lines of revenue. And and since then we've done that. We've added grounds maintenance. We really beefed up snow and ice management sales for the winter time to make sure we get good income coming in there. And we do everything now. We'll go out and do a $95 irrigation service call, or we'll build a $450,000 landscape. We do, and everywhere in between. To me, I think getting the diversity in the business is really important, and that was the lesson I took away from 2008. But it's hard to get there. It's not easy to add all those lines, and we've had plenty of bumps in the road along the way.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, and now fast forward to today. What services are you still offering? What areas of your business have you grown, and how many employees are you up to?
Yeah, so full summer season, we're running somewhere around 25 right now. We've got 6 distinct crews that we run. We specialize them, so we have a carpentry crew, a softscape crew, a hardscape crew. We do landscape utilities, ground maintenance, and then there's a site development crew as well. And so we try to specialize our teams so that they don't have to be jack of all trades. They can be specialists. And that helps tremendously with workmanship issues, efficiency, all that. Additionally, trying to outfit our job trailers for all these different disciplines is near impossible. Yeah. So that's helped us quite a bit. But, the big areas that we're pursuing right now really is, residential outdoor living spaces. So pool areas and just, really high-end backyards. That's one area. The second area is really commercial bid build work. So we work with a lot of local builders, general contractors, do medical buildings and apartment complexes that are all under construction. So they're 2 totally different animals. The pricing is way different for both. Sure. The customer experience is way different. And then, in the last few years, we've really started just adding outdoor residential services to local customers. We're in the heart of Clifton Park. There's a tremendous amount of old homes around us with deteriorating landscapes. And, we want to help people with whatever they need. If they need an irrigation system redone, if their patio needs to be rehabbed, just enhancements on shrubs and that type of thing, we can handle all that as well. And so that's kind of part of the diversity we're talking about. Each one of those is a little bit of a niche, but they're broad. Yeah. And hopefully at least one of them produces regardless of the economy.
Yeah, I think that's very smart. So, looking back, all these challenges, they force you to get better. A lot of people, and I've had you get so many challenges thrown at you as a business owner and somebody that's trying to grow something, and it's easy to get caught up in what the heck, and get frustrated. But every challenge is an opportunity. So that's excellent. And I do want to mention, I know Luke Michaels, I believe you guys work with him quite a bit as well.
Yep.
Luke had referred us to you, had mentioned your name as well. And Luke actually, he's actually our first sponsor here on the show. So I wanted to give Luke and the Michaels group a shout out for being very supportive. So thank you, Luke. And you'll see a lot more of their logo and name here in future episodes. Having 25 guys, Terry, working on $1 million projects, or not $1 million projects, but, in that higher dollar value range, to have a staff of 25, there's got to be, quite a bit of training involved and development of those staff. What did that look like from, the last, 10 years or so? You refer a lot to leadership and leadership development, which, we're speaking the same language with our staff. So yep. How did you get, your guys and add on guys and be able to develop and keep them hungry and growing with you?
Yeah, great question. I would just start by commenting that I started working on Michaels Group sites at like 15 or 16 years old.
So it goes way back.
Yes.
Okay.
I've known them for a long, long time, and they're friends at this point, and really appreciate those guys. I point to them as an example of how a builder should be. They're very organized. They pay very quickly, which is always subcontractors
process for everything.
Want to hear that. That's right. And so I do really appreciate them, and I kind of put them up as the example in most cases. So, but no, the training's a great question. About 10 years ago, we switched over to the Google Suite to start operating our business. And I was very tech savvy in the very beginning. I'm from that generation, I guess. I mean, I graduated college in 98. Windows had just come out, and people of my age either went to computers or they didn't. And I did. And I had a little bit of an advantage, I think, in my early 20s and early 30s even, because I was very computer literate. But with the Google Suite, they have intranet sites that you can build for your company, and it's as easy as making a Word document. And you can bring in YouTube videos, and you can write process, and organize and build your own training very, very simply. And I've built out, we call it Greenhouse. That's the name of the intranet site. And I kind of like the name of it. Greenhouses grow. They grow people.
Fitting, yeah.
Yep. And so we've got a site called Greenhouse, and we're actually in Greenhouse 2.0 now, where we've changed over to a new site. But we loaded it with all different types of training videos for all the different areas. A lot of it's safety related. So there's trailering and safe driving, backup videos, that type of thing. And these things you can just grab off YouTube and put a link on it, and it embeds in there. It's super easy. But then we got more specific with our processes for planting a tree, installing a patio, and we load them up with vendor videos, with how-tos and all that. And you would think you just build that and everyone's going to gravitate to it and just watch it, and they're going to be geniuses in 3 months. But that's not the case. The reality is that you have to schedule training. Yeah. And if it's not scheduled, it won't get done. I used to ask guys hey, look, I'm paying you to sit in a truck for 30 minutes and drive to the job site. Have the guy sit next to you, flip on the patio video, and go over what you're talking about. They wouldn't do it. And I get it. You know what I mean? If no one's there, going, hey, watch that video. But it's amazing when you do schedule a time and walk them through this stuff and then do hands-on. So, it has evolved over the year. Right now, we do a 60-day onboarding with our new staff. And it's gone from, we used to do it twice a week. Now it's once a week, but we expanded the hours. So it's about 2 hours every single week. And we've got a pretty robust checklist of everything that they need to learn before they are, quote unquote, peak certified. And they actually wear a different shirt until they get certified. So we have two different shirts.
So you create that separation and desire. That's great.
Yep. But the training is directly related, and especially weekly training is directly related to retention. As soon as we started training weekly, our retention rates skyrocketed, right? People that come into a new company, the worst feeling in the world is walking around and not knowing what you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
It's not a great feeling. And if nobody is doing anything about that for you day to day, week to week, and answering those questions and all that, you kind of get lost a little, and you kind of go, hey, you know what? I'm just not feeling it here, So getting the buy-in and getting them to buy into what we're trying to do, requires getting that FaceTime with them and scheduling it. So.
That's very smart. We did the same thing about 6 months ago. We were doing more of an informal training process, and we wanted to take a chance, and we actually created our own curriculum similar to what you did. And now everybody has to go through that process and actually take a test at the end of the week, and then again they're Daigle certified technicians. So. And same thing, same results. It's really improved, our retention rate as well. Our newer staff they're more engaged. And, I wanted to get your thoughts because I noticed it in your prep sheet on, the fact that nobody wants to work these days, and, how that's related to training and onboarding. And I think that's a really unique perspective, and we haven't heard it yet. So share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and I would just say quickly that, you're paying for it anyway.
Absolutely.
Okay? If you're not training them, you're paying for it. I assure you, you're already paying for it with workmanship issues and just lack of wanting to be involved in what you're trying to do. But I'm kind of I'm a numbers geek without being a numbers geek. I'm a C- at a spreadsheet, but I can read them well. And I've been really after being able to keep score daily and weekly for the business. And financials don't really work. QuickBooks is for accounting. I go to any month in particular, and what QuickBooks says is not reality, right? It's reality for the government, and it measures what's coming in and what's going out, but it's not what we're producing. And I wanted to be able, I had read a great book called The Great Game of Business, and I would encourage anybody that owns a business now to read it. It teaches you really how to gamify your workday and to inspire and motivate and get the entire team rowing in the same direction towards financial results. And then everyone gets a share of the profit. So that's what we've tried to model. And we started back in 2019. And it's a struggle. You have to have really good accounting, up to date. So you need a good person in the office. We currently have a controller, Christina, that's fantastic, and she makes all these beautiful charts and graphs so we can read the data very, very quickly. But essentially, we break everything down to man hours. And there's a certain number of man hours we need to produce every week to be profitable. And then we hand that off to project managers. They have goals each week of what they're supposed to do. They hand that off inside of a production meeting to all the foremen, the 6 foremen. And the foremen have their goals of what they're going to produce. And they're having this meeting on Thursday planning for next week, right? And then by Tuesday the following week, we have a leadership meeting where we sit with the project managers and we go through the numbers and we go, what's your projection for this week and how much money are we going to make and how's it all look? Under this system, it does a number of things. Number one, it really makes profit consistent. That's good for me, right? I don't have to worry about, hey, are we making money or not, or how's everyone performing? But number two, it aligns the entire company with these production goals, and then it gives them a share of the profits. They understand how they need to win inside the company and how they need to, what they need to do to better their lives. And it's really just producing more hours each week.
Absolutely.
And then we report back to them and we let them know how the week went after the fact. And, we've been playing with this for a long time, and each, 4 years now, we make different changes each year, and we're getting really close to it being really, really effective. And to me, it's, the beauty of this, we share our financials. It's open book management. Every month we give everybody a look at our P&L.
We do the same, yeah.
And people go, "Oh my God, aren't you worried about, giving all this information away?" And the answer is no. What we're doing is really hard. And if somebody can do it, then they will. It's probably not going to be my idea. The information's out there. Everyone knows about it. But it really is, as a business owner, my goal, again, I said in the beginning, I'm going back. I want to get back to the lifestyle, right? I don't want, the whole goal of owning this business and growing it is so that I can have it grow with other people without me being so integral in it, right? I want the lifestyle back. I'm greedy with my time. I don't care about the money all that much. I just need a certain amount and I'm happy. I want to be stable for me and my family and all that, but I don't need to, I don't need to be a multimillionaire, every single year over and over again. I want the lifestyle. I want free time and to enjoy life without having to have 2 cell phones in each ear. You know what I mean? And put out fires all day. And so that's what I'm going for. And to if you can gamify the business and you can figure out your widget or your profit for X, as they say, for us, it's man hours. Other people, it might be installs. For you, it might be units cleaned. Yep. Whatever that is, if you can break the numbers down and get the company behind what you're trying to do and simplify it, the results are fantastic. And when you do it, I think this probably answers your question that we started with is, once you do that, now you have a bunch of people all out there working for a winning team. The attitudes are better. They go above and beyond without being asked. They make great decisions that are in the interest of the company and not in the interest of themselves. And you can find great people that want to work for that company. It becomes really easy. And they want to work for you for long periods of time. And I think, at the end of the day, we all should aspire to run companies that way. We want winning teams. We want people, happy with where they work. And in order to do that, you've got to create that environment. And, foosball tables and soda machines in the office is not culture. Culture is coming to work and being part of a winning team. And if you can create it, you're going to win.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of working for a small business, especially in today's society, the opportunity to learn and be closer with the people that you work with, rather than a corporate environment. So truly, truly amazing story, Terry. And I got some rapid fire questions I want to throw your way.
Sure.
So the first one, what are your thoughts? And we touched on a little bit on work ethic in today's society.
I hear folks all the time complain, that you can't find anybody good anymore and nobody wants to work. And, I think it's bullshit. And if you look back, old people with bad memories have been saying that same thing for 5,000 years. Honestly, the kids these days don't know how to work. That's been said for the last 5,000 years and it's documented. Look it up. All right. So they do know how to work. But work is different and their lives are different and they grew up differently than we did. And you've got to embrace that. And so, and not only that, but as an owner of a business, it's your job to understand your workforce and to create a system that they will want to work in and can work in. You can't expect them to show up and know everything about your company. And if you look back to when you were 23, you probably have foggy memories of how good you actually were, I assure you.
Yeah. How do you work that now, with your staff? Do you have flex work schedules, work from home? Are you doing any of that?
The office folks have that ability. The field staff really don't.
Yeah.
But we are flexible in the sense that, I mean, we cut out working on weekends in 2012, right? So a landscape company that's a seasonal business doesn't work Saturdays. It's kind of shocking. So, but we knew that, I didn't want to work Saturdays, and you get burnt out very, very quickly. So we try to run a 45 to 50 hour week with our staff, and it's Monday through Friday, and I can count on one hand the number of weekends we've worked, non-snow, in the last decade. So I think that's a start for everybody. We try to keep it consistent, and we try to get them, we want them back by 6 latest. We don't want them out on sites till, all hours. But the staff in the office, they have the ability to work from home as they see fit. But, there's a cohesiveness when everyone's in the office. So we try to get everybody there most days, most of the time. But if they've got family things and things that come up and they can work from home, we let them do it.
Awesome.
So, yep.
So what are your thoughts, and I know you went to college, environmental science, so what are your thoughts on college these days?
I was told once by a guy when I was in high school, he said, look, if you got a college education and a trade, you'll never be out of work. And I think it's very true. And I appreciated that advice, and, but is it mandatory? No. I mean, I have my youngest son is 9, and he's got, a few learning disabilities, nothing major, just, dyslexia and things like that. And he's a hand already. I can tell. He's got more hours on a skid steer at 9 years old than a lot of my staff members do. And I'm not even
Start him young.
Yeah.
That's
and,
awesome.
And he loves it, and he gravitates to it. He's very dexterous. He wants to use his hands. And there's a lot of people out there like that. And I think it's a waste for someone like that to go to college, get into the trades. And look, Google's there. You can find good companies. The good companies are going to advertise on their websites about their opportunities and what's included. And you can ask around. You can look at Google reviews. I think one of the things that I think most guys in the trades probably don't do enough of is, I'm not sure how to frame this, but I feel like there's a bunch of really good guys out there that don't feel like they're good enough to come work for us. And I would love to help people dispel that notion. Like, look, if you've got a great attitude and some hardscape experience, even just a little bit, like 6 months or something, we will sign you up.
As long as the will is there.
Yeah, we'll train you. But we want positive. We just need positive attitude and some discipline. You got to show up on time. You got to work hard, right? And you got to brace our process. That's what we say. But man, there's a lot of great guys out there, and I think folks in the trades, I think they sell themselves short a little. They go after jobs that they know they can get, or their buddies working there, this, that, and the other thing. And if I gave any of my kids advice on this, I mean, I would tell them, show me what companies you're applying for, and let's find the best ones, and let's get you started there.
Yeah.
So
okay, that's a good answer. Day-to-day routines. What does a typical day look like for you?
I wish they were more typical, but
it could change at 7 a.m. pretty quickly.
Yeah, I read something about the guy, the CEO of Apple or Google, I think, Pinchar, is that his name? He said something, well, I make sure I get enough sleep, and then I start my day. And I by no means sleep in, but this morning I was up at 5. I'm generally targeting 6:30 in front of my computer in the morning, and I am home. My wife's a teacher, so she leaves early as well. She's gone at 6:30, and I get some kids on the bus, and I shuttle some people around a little bit. I've been getting into meditation lately. I've had to. I just work and trying to sleep well. With my mind races a lot with ideas and thoughts, and I've had to learn to train it and calm it. What I could tell you is not to get political or anything, but I honestly believe they should be teaching meditation in school at a very early age. The skill of being able to train your mind would probably stop a lot of the senseless violence that's going on in the world. Our kids need this skill. So if any educators or people on the boards are out there listening, meditation's a fantastic tool to really get people to be good people. So I do a little of that, a little yoga, a little workout. I'm 47, so I gotta stretch and work out a little bit. Nothing too crazy, but so I do a little of that. I try to do it every day, but it's more like 3-4 days a week. And then I'm into the office usually by probably about 10:30. So, and I'm there till probably 6, something like that. So, and it's, when I get in there, it's busy. I don't stop for lunch or anything. I've got a lot of people I'm talking to, so.
Yeah, make the most of your time in the office. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned meditation. I started that, and I know Mike is a big proponent as well. I started with it, and it really can change your outlook in your life. The other thing that I started was cryotherapy, and absolutely love it. Yeah, cold plunges. My wife actually bought they're like foam pads that you put in the freezer, and they stay cold and freeze, and they'll stay cold for 10 minutes, but one actually goes over your head and the other on the back of your neck. And I've been doing that every evening, and it really does. It just takes a lot of that, anxiety and anxiousness away. So
it affects your psyche too, so it's not just physical.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I'll send you the link for it. So if you were going to give the listeners one piece of advice, or teach them one thing about being in business for themselves or in the trades in general, what would that piece of advice be?
From a trade perspective, I think my accountant calls it yellow fever. But, men in the trades tend to gravitate towards big, shiny objects, nice new trucks, heavy equipment, that type of thing. It's going to solve all our problems and make us all this money. I would tell you to be wary of that and to take those investments and put them in human capital. Find people that are really good. And for me, at least, when I started, and even recently, I hired a general manager last year. Best decision I ever made. You don't think you can afford these salaries. Once you get them there, you realize that you cannot afford them. That these people are integral to the business because you're not. I realized that I was not the guy. So hiring people that are better than you is a big part of it. And how I got there, because I've got a lot of blind spots in business, is I ended up joining a peer group.
Okay.
And I have a group. They're coming to visit Saratoga here in July. It's about 18 landscape companies from around the country. And they're going to come and pick my business apart and tell me what I'm doing right and tell me what I'm doing wrong.
That's great.
It's a three-day event, and then we go out to dinner, and we got a few trips planned and that type of thing around the area. But I joined that about 2 years ago, and once I did, I found the blind spots, and it was with people, and I just was not. I needed some higher caliber folks around me to help me achieve the goals I wanted to achieve. So it's 2 pieces of advice, I guess. Join the peer group and be around people that are doing what you want to do, and continue to look for really good people and stay away from the shiny objects.
That's good. I mean, it is good advice. You see a lot of younger guys driving around the big F-350s and all that good stuff. So speaking of finding people, where do you do a lot of your recruiting? Do you work with any of the local schools or trade shops? Where are you finding staff?
So, generally it's Indeed. We spend quite a bit each month on ads there. But hiring is, the goal there is to cast a wide net, right? Mm-hmm. So you're fishing essentially, and the wider your net is, the more people you're going to bring in, possible candidates. So we do job fairs. We do Facebook postings as well. But we haven't got into the schools all that much yet, but it's definitely on our radar and something we're looking at. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you realize, and I want to back up a little bit, when did you realize that people were the issue, that you didn't have the right people and that maybe you weren't the best fit?
Like I said, when I joined the peer group, it became apparent. I've, over the last decade, I've read every or not every, but most notable business books, and I'm pretty up on contemporary business practice, I guess, and understand it and subscribe to it, honestly. But just because you have all the answers doesn't mean you're going to be successful. I mean, so, and that's what I was finding. Work was a struggle. And it took the inspiration of a peer group, seeing all these same people have similar struggles, but finding solutions, and then listening to them talk about essentially their org charts and who was doing what for them. And, once you start looking at the other businesses and seeing how they're operating, all of a sudden you realize, well, Jesus, I got an operations manager here that I'm trying to make the general manager, and I'm trying to get him to discipline people and write them up. Meanwhile, he's spraying hydroseed on the lawn and also fixing the skid steer, right? So he and I'm talking about my now project manager, Stephen Rowley. He's been with me about 12 years, and Steve and I have done a tremendous amount together, but once we had COVID, he and I were both completely overrun with our jobs. And we have great skills, but we weren't always often very able to use them because we were out doing all these other tasks. And so I realized really 3 years ago, I just realized that I needed more management staff in the office to help us with this, because it was just too difficult for us to try to do everything well,
And what are you doing now day to day in the business?
So I'm the sales manager, and I guess the CEO technically. But I've got a general manager that is doing a lot of the hiring. But I just field all the sales leads. I have a landscape architect and other service salesmen that work for us. And I just field the leads and send them out and consult on proposals and all that. I still do very little bit of sales work myself, but my goal is to pull myself out of that eventually. And I set a goal about 5 years ago to be out of the day-to-day operation of the business by the time I was 50. I've got about 2 years left, and if I can get out of the sales management role, I get pretty close. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to work in the business, but I don't want to be in the day-to-day running of it. And I think I revel in the fact I read the 4-Hour Workweek years ago.
Great book.
And it's a great book. It ruined me in my younger years because why can't everybody just run this place without me? But it's not that easy. But reading that book, that is what I'm looking to do. I want to look at reports and check in with people once a week, and I want the pride for me is to be the true entrepreneur where the business runs by itself, and I affect it and contribute to it in ways that aren't in the day to day, but in a larger sense from the outside. So that's what I'm going for. A couple of years left, and honestly, I'll have almost 30 years in then.
That's awesome.
And I think I should at that point deserve a chance to go maybe spend some time doing some other things, work related that aren't that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And just to wrap up, I know we're running a little bit tight on time here, but as far as planning and goal setting, I can tell you're very goal oriented and driven. How often do you do planning and goal setting within the company?
So we subscribe to the Traction model. I'm sure you've read the book Traction by Gino Wickman.
I have not. No.
Oh no! Oh geez.
Let's get that one.
So you got to check out Traction, and then there's another one called Rocket Fuel that he wrote. Rocket Fuel is Traction is about having a meeting in your company and setting goals. It's a whole book about it. And then Rocket Fuel is about getting your number 2 in place. Most businesses, everyone out there, McDonald's, Berkshire Hathaway, right? They all got a number 2 that nobody knows about that does a lion's share of the work and is an integral part of the success. Most of the famous people are just the faces. Getting a number 2, general manager, operations manager, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely integral, I think, for taking a step away from the business. You got to have it. And what they say in it is that, in Rocket Fuel is there's a visionary, which is the owner, and then there's this integrator, the person that's going to integrate the wishes of the visionary. Yeah. And what they say is there's 5 visionaries to every 1 integrator. So there's very few integrators out there. And if you find them, you want to keep them. I've got an integrator right now, Gary Benaquista, who joined us last year, and he's fantastic and does those things that I didn't even know needed to be done, and he does them at a really high level. But traction is about having a meeting, and you do it quarterly, and you set what they call rocks, and everybody has 90 days to complete the rocks, and then when you meet, you look at the rocks and everyone gives an update each week, and we grab one person in the group and a leadership team to present each week as well, so we know it's not just lip service that, hey, okay, this is what I'm working on, here's where I'm at. But Traction's a great book, and quarterly goal setting is paramount, and you do got to break it down into 90-day chunks, because any more than that, you forget about it.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's excellent. We've covered a ton, and you've offered a ton to all the listeners here, Terry. So thank you again for coming in. If people want to find you, where can they find you? Peak Environmental, whether they're looking for employment or they're looking for somebody to build their next landscape project.
Yep. I'm at terry@peakec.com is my email. You can also get right to me through our website contact boxes. I'm also on LinkedIn. So any of those places, you'll get me. So, but Derek, it's been a pleasure. Glad to be here, and I had a great time.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks again. And thank you for listening to us here at Blue Collar Startup, where each episode we interview real blue-collar entrepreneurs, business owners, and managers to help educate and empower our listeners to become the next generation of blue-collar businesses. If you are looking for more information about what we are doing or how to get involved, you can find us at bluecollarstartup.io or on Instagram, which Mike never posts on, so we'll give him a hard time since he's not sitting here, at the Blue Collar Startup. So thank you, everybody, for listening, and thank you again to Luke and the Michaels Group for their support. Catch you on the next episode.